Hi everyone, Teddy Baldassarre here, back at JLC. So we've had a full day. If you've not seen our other video yet going through the entire manufacturer, I'd recommend checking it out. But now we want to look into the history, specifically a new initiative that you have called the Collectibles.
Exactly.
So, I'm here with Matthew Sauret. He's the Heritage Director for the brand, Product Director as well. So first, could you give us a lay of the land? Now we're going to look at some pieces here that are from this collection, but could you introduce us to the concept first?
Yes. So Teddy, what we did a few years back, precisely around 2 years back, is we turned to a heritage of vintage timepieces, and there are many initiatives that have been brought to life, big exhibitions, books, but what we wanted is to focus on the pieces themselves. So we worked on creating a set of the most collectibles pieces that were introduced by the Maison. So we made the list from the 1920s to the 70s, which is the golden age of wristwatch making. Before we were just making pocket watches. And from then on, we established a list of 17 pieces that we call the collectibles, which are the most collectibles watches there was. And we created two initiatives based on this. A curated collections of timepieces. The pieces that we have here in front of us are all for sales, starting from the 25th of February online on our website. And also we created a collector's guide, a big book, which is more than 500 pages, with 17 chapters for the 17 pieces that we have here. And the goal of this book is, of course, to describe them in full details, but also to tell their stories, and through them to tell the stories of Jaeger-LeCoultre's, but also fine watchmaking as a whole, as it runs from the 20s to the 70s, which is, as I said, the golden age. And before the quartz crisis, watches were made without computer aid and much more romantic. That's what we try to do here at Jaeger-LeCoultre, to bring the poetry with our manufacturer that we've introduced in the video.
So talking about those romantic ideas and these stories, could we go through some of these pieces together? I don't know if you want to start over there and just start working our way down.
Yeah, we've put them by chronological order, so we can start maybe with the one that everybody will love, and I think everybody will crave for, which is a Reverso from the 1930s. This is the first Reverso which were equipped with original LeCoultre calibers, because just before that, with a short period of time, we didn't have a caliber to fit inside of the Reverso, funnily enough, but at the time they really wanted to have the perfect caliber. So this is one of the first to be equipped with a LeCoultre caliber. And what's amazing about this watch is that it had a beautiful brown dial that we call chocolate. Those dials are very rare because they were only made on requests. It is signed Jaeger and is in perfect condition, one that we rarely have seen.
So this color, I mean, most people when they associate from a vintage perspective, this brown chocolate hue is like these tropical style dials, but this is more natural from the manufacturer.
This is natural from the manufacturer. If it was tropical, then it would have like different shades that have built up through times, but this is original. The color is very well preserved, and the watch overall is very well preserved in the original case of the Reverso, which is very small compared to what we have today, but it was the original size of the Reverso with this very tiny crown and little blue shades in the hands. A watch that is just magnificent. And the case back is often the case back of these watches tend to be decorated, but here in this case it was a case back that is completely virgin of any decoration. So again, a piece that is quite incredible.
It's amazing. And then just really quickly, as we're going through this, just a theme, let's call attention to the name on the dial. So we kind of see that transition. So you just see Jaeger.
Yeah, here. Before 1937, the watches were not named after Jaeger-LeCoultre because Jaeger-LeCoultre was not created already. The two names were not associated yet. So the watches usually were only called Reverso, but in this case, in the case of this watch, it was Jaeger. And you see just below Jaeger, Fab Suisse, which means fabriqué en Suisse, made in Switzerland.
So this is essentially falling between the dates of 1931 and 1937
yes.
from a production standpoint.
This watch is probably around 1932, 33. So it's almost 90 years of age. And it's a beautiful example that has traveled through times and probably been handled with a lot of care.
Stunning. Moving right along?
Yes, so we make quite a jump to 1958 for an extraordinary watch, which you know because it's been really acclaimed and it's known in American history. It's the Geophysic. The Geophysic was created in 1958, the year of Geophysic, the Geophysic year where all scientists and men of science had gathered to create, engineers had gathered to surpass themselves and to try to do something exceptional. And at Jaeger-LeCoultre, we decided to do a watch that would be exceptional, the most precise wristwatch ever. So it was fitted with a chronometer certified caliber. At this time, COSC didn't exist. So all the calibers of the watch were tested in different institutes for their chronometry, and only the best would be fitted in the Geophysic. And also the watch has an anti-magnetic casing, which you can learn all about and see pictures in the Collectibles book. It's quite a very nice watch that was produced for a very short run of time, and we have an example here which is in perfect state. The dial looks completely untouched and the hands are just magnificent.
It's beautiful. No, it's aged wonderfully.
As I said, it's known in American history because the Geophysic was actually a gift to the USS Nautilus Captain Anderson, who was the first captain to sail his submarine down the North Pole, across the North Pole. That was the first time it was done, and the city of Geneva wanted to award him with an incredible gift, and they chose the Geophysic to do so. So it went down in history also as the watch of the first submarine captain to cross under the North Pole, which is kind of a nice story.
It's very cool. It takes more of, now we look at the Reverso, this elegant approach. This is now kind of more of a technician type of approach.
Yes.
And then we transition to something that is its own thing with the Memo Box, which this is a beautiful example with this blue dial. Can you tell us a little bit more about this?
Yes, so the Memo Box was born in 1950 and this has come to life in the late 60s. This watch has a different name. People call it lapis lazuli for the blue shades, but actually it's lacquer made dial. This dial, this very watch is known under his reference, which is E855. The name of the reference usually use E at Jaeger-LeCoultre, E for étanche, waterproof in French. That starts with the E and then 3 digits. So this is E855. And this is a Memo Box with an automatic, so it's caliber 825. And it's perfectly chimed and it has a very nice blue finish to it with different concentric circle, because the Memo Box has this very nice circle in the middle that I use for the alarm, and they've used for the design different blue to mark the concentric circle. It's just a watch that is just really beautiful with a beautiful date window that is nicely curved with the signature Jaeger-LeCoultre and automatic at the back. This is a watch, as some of them that we have in the collectibles, that is sold with a full set, meaning box and papers. Also very original, and it's a watch that is very rare. And
then, so the crown, one side is going to adjust the hands and the
yes.
other one is going to adjust the alarm function. Can we hear it?
Yes, sure. We can hear it.
Hold it up to your microphone.
Yeah, I will hold up to a microphone so it works perfectly. So you just have to wind as I'm doing the top crown. And then for the example, we will move the hour hand, but usually it should just chime by itself, and you will see. It's more a cricket sound than what it is now because we have evolved. And it's very loud and it vibrates also really much. So how it works is that there is a pin in the back that you can see here, and there is a hammer that actually hit this pin and make this sound really loud. And since it's hammering on the back, then you can really
So that's actually hitting off the case back?
Yes, hitting off the case back, so you can really feel it vibrating on your wrist. You cannot miss it.
So moving right along to more of a sporty side of your collection, because now we're kind of ascending into a different avenue for the brand. Could you walk us through the next piece?
This is late 60s also, 67, 68. Also the Memo Box, and you have more like, let's say, of a classic version of the Memo Box here. And here you have a much more sporty version of the Memo Box, because since the 1959, we realized at Jaeger-LeCoultre that we could make a sport execution of the Memo Box, using the Memo Box to let the diver know that his diving time had elapsed. This is the Polaris. It's called the Polaris. This is a watch that went down in history also because it was really, the production was very small, And it was a watch also, if you see all of them, this is a watch that is much bigger in size. So when 36 was the reference then, or 37 was already called jumbo, this watch was a 42 millimeter with a huge glass box in plexi and a dial that is very sporty with those indexes here made of luminescent coating which have turned vanilla also, and this dial that is just super open. Also it chimes perfectly, so we can hear it. So it's the same, exactly the same function. There is a third crown here which is used for the inner bezel, and so we wind the mechanism. There are two backs, so there is a back exactly the same as this where the pin is attached, and another one that prevents for water tightness. And so it has this openings here at the back to let the sound escape. So I will make it chime, but you don't have to hold it too close to the mic because it's really loud. It vibrates really strongly.
You're not kidding.
So you will not miss your diving time.
Well, when this was created, this was for an elapsed time bezel, and you need to time your dives.
Yes.
And it needs to be loud. And
yes.
These murky environments. So that's exactly what this is going for. And this is also of the compressor style case.
So we were not producing the cases.
Okay.
They were producing outside of our walls, but those cases were very famous. And actually, our previous diving watch with Memo Box were not using these cases, and so we moved to this excellent supplier of case making to use the super compressor case. And the Polaris is one of the only watch to have in the range of Jaeger-LeCoultre to have the super compressor, and there are very few watches out there that have those super compressor case. So it's for us, it's something quite incredible to have associated such an iconic case with a legendary complication, which is the Memo Box.
And to close here, we have something that's a little out there.
Yes.
Chronograph. Tell us more about this piece.
Yes, so it's a bit of an underdog here, but it's a watch that is quite amazing, honestly. We call it the Shark. Jaeger-LeCoultre had a branch in the US that was operating sort of not separately, but that was naming the watches only LeCoultre, not Jaeger-LeCoultre. There are many reasons behind this, notably taxes at the time or custom. And they were requesting a lot of sporty watches. And one of them was this chronograph. So it's a chronograph meant for diving, about the same year as the Polaris, 1969. And it was a chronograph which was set with one bezel and actually sold with two additional. So there was three bezel, a diving bezel, a world timer bezel, and a telemeter. Telemeter is quite of unknown complications to measure distance with time, with sound.
Something can both be seen and heard.
Exactly. So it's quite a nice piece because it has this panda look, but inversed. Not the counters are in this cream color, and it's a watch also that is unexpected at Jaeger-LeCoultre because it is equipped with a Vallée de Joux movement instead of a LeCoultre movement. And there is a funny story behind this. It's that Vallée de Joux is actually a few miles away from here. Vallée de Joux stands for Vallée de Joux, where we are here. They were neighbors, and since the manufacturer at the time knew that there were an excellent chronograph there, why go too far than to look for an excellent chronograph that was from the Vallée de Joux, their neighbor? So they probably also to keep good relationship with their neighbor that were certainly using a lot of their components, they went to them to buy this caliber, and it's honestly one of the only Jaeger-LeCoultre to be equipped with not a Jaeger-LeCoultre movement. All of them were equipped with LeCoultre movement, but I think to keep good relationship in your neighborhood, you had to say, okay, you're doing a good caliber, I will use some of them, and this is very rare. And to find it in an exceptional condition with the original box and the original bezel is one of the only one that I've ever seen, and we only kept one in our museum, and so it's a pleasure to put this other one for sale. And all of these watches, external example and museum pieces, which can be worn, as you see, they work perfectly, are going to be put for sales after careful restoration, of course, in our.
So they're all coming back to HQ, fully restored. We saw your restoration department, all the tooling that is required, which is looking back to the era in which these watches were produced to make sure they're completely in line with the standard of the era.
Yes, exactly. And we have looked for best condition to have something that is completely unpolished. We've just cleaned case, cleaned the dial, very lightly, and dismantle the calibers, reassemble it, repair parts if needed, but the intervention on them were minimal. And so they're beautifully cared for, and we hope their new owner will continue the long line and long live those incredible watches.
Matthew, thank you very much. I think this brand, people look at it, they think of the Reverso, but there's so much more breadth here in what you're creating. So thank you for going through this, showing some of these different pillars and showcasing some of your great vintage pieces. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Teddy.
Okay, great seeing you.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody. See you next time.
Bye-bye.